Hello everyone, myself Ravi. Today in this class we will learn about the topic inverse of a function. What is inverse of a function and how to find inverse of a function and how we can practically use this application in our real life. So before starting the class, let me have a simple question for all of you and then we can start the class. Suppose we have a wall and on this wall, suppose this is a wall and on this wall suppose a ladder is there leaning against the wall. So basically this is a ladder and this ladder is leaning against the wall. So suppose this the length of this ladder is 10 meter and the distance between this ladder base point and the wall base point, suppose this distance is 6 meter. So by looking at this figure, can you tell me what is the angle the ladder is making with the horizontal line, with the baseline? So to solve these type of questions, practical questions, we can use inverse of a function. So basically in this question we will apply inverse of a trigonometric function. For example, let me solve this first and then we will look forward to what is a function and what is the inverse of a function. So basically now if you look at this figure, this angle theta we have to find out. Now in this triangle, suppose this is A, this is B and this is C. Now suppose in this basic triangle, this right angle triangle ABC, if you apply basic Pythagoras theorem, basic trigonometric, so if you apply cos theta here, so cos theta is basically base upon hypotenuse. So in this figure, if we have to find theta, cos theta, then this 6 meter will be our base. So base is 6 and the hypotenuse is opposite to the 90-degree angle, it will be 10. So it will be 6 by 10 or you can say 0.6. Now cos theta is 0.6 but we have to find the value of theta. So this cos will go that side and basically this is the application of inverse of a function which we will study now. So the theta will be cos inverse 0.6, which is roughly equals to 53.13 degree. So this is a practical application of inverse of a function, and see this is the inverse of a trigonometric function, but we can do inverse of a lot of functions. So before that, let's start our class and let's study what is inverse of a function, what it is and how to apply it in solving different questions. So basically first of all, let's see what is inverse of a function. Now suppose if I give you, see, first of all, in function we can have different type of functions. For example, we can have polynomial functions and we can have logarithmic functions, we can have trigonometric functions. So a lot of different type of functions we have. Suppose if I take an example of a algebraic function, or you can say polynomial function. Suppose a function we have x square plus 4. Okay, this is a parabolic function. Now in this function, basically if we put the value of x is equal to 1, then the value of fx, or you can also write this fx as y also. So basically the value of fx, or you can say y, it will be 5. So if x is 1, then the value of function is 5 here. So now on different value of x we can find different values of fx, or you can say y. If x is 1, then the value of y is 5, and suppose if x is 2, then the value of this function will be 8. Okay, so basically this is a function, but when we do inverse of this, and in this function, when we are putting where the values of x is equal to 1 and 2, so basically the value that we put are known as a domain, and the value that we got are known as range. And so basically this is domain and range. But basically what we do that in a simple function, the value that we put is domain and the value that we get is range. But if we do inverse of the function, then these two values get changes. Suppose if we do inverse of this function, which we will do later, and we will also show that how to find the inverse of a function. So when we will do inverse of a function, at that time this value of y will become domain and the value of x will become range. Means the range and domain, it reverse the both of the values get reversed. So this is basically inverse of a function. In inverse of a function, the domain becomes range and the range becomes domain. So basically what is inverse of a function? Inverse of a function is the reverse of a function. The so, suppose in trigonometry, if we take example of a trigonometric function, in trigonometry, what is the value of sine 30? If I ask you what is sine 30, then you will say sine 30 degree gives us 1 by 2. Okay, now if we do reverse of this process, so now in this process, this function, what we are doing, we are putting the value of this angle, we are putting the angle, this is our input, and we are getting a value, you can say we are getting a ratio, this is our output. Okay, so but in inverse function, what we will do, the function will be same, but we will put this ratio as our input, and we will get this 30 degree as our output. For example, now in the same suppose if I, if you look at again, look at the trigonometric function, if sine 30 degree, in sine 30 degree we know that it is equal to 1 by 2. So this angle, so this is angle and this is a ratio. So basically what is happening is, in a normal function, this angle is our input, and this ratio is our output. But when we do the inverse of this function, suppose we can also write this as, this sine term will go that side, and we can also write it as sine inverse 1 by 2, and now this sine inverse 1 by 2 will be equal to 30 degree. So now this value, this ratio becomes our input, and this angle becomes our output. So what I'm saying, trying to say is, this input and output, both things become reverse. When we are putting angle, we are getting ratio, but in inverse of a function, we will put the ratio and we will get the angle. So these things will get reverse. So now we will look at how to find inverse of any function. Suppose you have a function, whether it is polynomial function or logarithmic function or trigonometric function, we can always find its inverse. How? So first of all, what is the basic condition for a function to have its inverse? So you could see, you cannot find inverse of any function. To find inverse, first of all, the function must be one function and onto function. The function must be one function and it must be onto function. Only then we can find inverse of a function. And if a function is one and onto both, so we can say this function is bisective. So if a function is bisective, only then we can find its inverse. Now basically let's look at how to find the inverse. Now suppose if we have a function, suppose if we have a function like x square plus 4, let's take this function, and this function is equal to y. So basically, to find the inverse of any function, we have to follow two steps. Our step number one is, now if you look at this function, this y is equal to x square plus 4, or you can say y is equal to fx. It means y is a function given in terms of x. Y is a function given in terms of x. Now we have to reverse this process. We have to find x in terms of y. Okay, so first of all, what we will do is, our step number one is, we have to find the value of x. See, value of y is already given, y is separate, but now we have to find value of x. For example, now in this question, if y is equal to x square plus 4, so from here we can find the value of x. How? This 4 will come this side, so it will be x square is equal to y minus 4, and the value of x, if we take under root both sides, then the value of x will be under root y minus 4. This is the value of x. This is our first step. So now if I demonstrate the same thing in this function, now here y is equal to fx, but now from here we can also find x. How to find x here? This function will go this side, this function will go this side. So basically the value of x will be f inverse y. We can write the inverse function as like this. Earlier y is given in terms of x, but now we have calculated x in terms of y. This is our step one. Now step two, now we have value of f inverse y. Suppose the now the value of f inverse y is under root y minus 4. So from here, now if we replace this y by x, if we replace this y by x in the left hand side as well as in right hand side, so it will be equal to under root x minus 4. So basically this is the inverse of a function. Earlier we have fx, but now we have f dash x. You can clearly see, earlier we have fx, now we have f inverse x. So this is the way to find the inverse of any function. And inverse of a function have multiple applications in different type of fields, but this is the way we can find inverse of a function. Now let's do one question also. Suppose this is a question given to you, and in this question we can easily find its inverse. But how? See, in this question it is clearly saying that a function is there, and function is from 1 to infinity. Now 1 to infinity stands for that this is a domain of this function. Okay, so domain means the value of x that we can put here, and this value is the range of a function. This is the domain and this is the range. So function is given, function is x plus 1 by x, and we have to find its inverse. So how to find inverse of a function? Options are suppose also given. Now suppose let's start this question by using the two steps. If fx is given, or you can say fx is equal to y, is given x plus 1 by x, so we will apply our first step. Our first step was that how first of all we have to find value of x. So from here, if you solve this little bit, if you take LCM here, it will be x square plus 1 upon x. So from here you can say x will go that side, xy is equal to x square plus 1, and you can also write it as x square minus xy plus 1 is equal to 0. So now basically this is a quadratic equation, and in quadratic equation we have to find the value of x here. So we know the basic quadratic formula, and if we can, by using the discriminant method and basic quadratic formula, we can find the value of x here. The value of x will be minus b. Let me first write the basic formula, and root d upon 2a, the basic quadratic formula. So by using this formula we can say it will be y plus minus under root d. And what is d in quadratic equation? B square minus 4ac. So you know b square is y square, and minus 4ac, a is 1, c is also 1, divided by 2a, so it will be 2. So basically this is the value, and this is the value of x. And in the last question also we have seen the value of x will be f inverse y. So now in this value we just have to do that, we just have to replace the y with x, then that will be our answer.